is going on? I want to welcome you from half court for today, October 4th, 2023, the beginning of the NBA season. It feels like Christmas is upon us, boys. I am one of your hosts, Sean Murphy, alongside one of the guys who was actually in the building for Media Day, the man, the myth, the legend, Hollywood, Jeff Hiya Brady. Jeff, what's going on, man? You've had a pretty eventful couple weeks.
Yeah, I don't know what's been happening. Just everything's kind of coming at me at once. I like it. I can get used to this, right? It's Sam Laporta over the weekend, ran into him.
Yeah, I was gonna say Sam Laporta. He had the honor of running into, one of like Detroit's legends.
Those comments had me dead. By the way, he's like, did he ask for an autograph? No, he did not. But you know what though? We got a picture, and look at that.
Yeah,
look, this man. By the way, and this is the crazy part. He's a year younger than me, and he's a giant. Like I'm 6 foot. I'm 6 foot. He makes me look tiny.
And yeah, you're not a short guy. Like you and I are about you and I are about the same height, about like 6 foot. And like this guy just comes up and is like just towers. But I mean, he said he was a nice guy too. I mean, he seems like a really nice guy. I mean, he's playing some awesome football. He won me some money over last week too. So shout out Sam Laporta.
Yes, sir. And then we had Media Day today went by, and shout out to all the people, all the beat writers, man. They do great work. Got to meet Corey, I already know, but Omari, Mike Curtis, I saw. Obviously, we love Mike over here. We love all those guys, man. Those guys were all.
Yeah, we got to get Omari on here soon. That's been long overdue.
Yeah, absolutely. James, of course, and then Vince Ellis and the crew, and shout out to all the Pistons PR. They're super welcoming. So they just are. They always are. So love the organization. Like I never felt like when I went in there, it was my first time in Media Day, and they didn't treat me like it. They were awesome.
Yeah, real family atmosphere around there. Like if you're in the building, they trust you, they like you. There's a positive relationship there. But also joining us is the man with the Marquette Heat, joining us from that seat in Indiana, the man, the myth, the legend. It is Troy. Opening day is about a month away. All three of us are going to be in the LCA. I'm excited. How are you feeling? We actually have some basketball to finally watch this week. I know there's been some WNBA playoffs and some good hoops going on there, but nothing quite meets the level of NBA hoops, Troy.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. 6 days from now, as we're recording, will be first preseason game against Phoenix at the LCA. I got my 3-1-3 repping.
Yes, sir.
I'm just really excited for this season to start. We've been talking about it all off season, even talking about it towards the end of the ladder of the season last year about what's to come in the upcoming season. Well, here it is. We got Ausar Thompson. We got Joe Harris. We got Monty Morris. We're ready to ball out. So it'll be a great season, and looking forward to being with you guys on opening night too. So.
Yeah, for sure. When we talk about Media Day, Joe Harris, that's going to be an interesting one to talk. He just seems like he does not give a. He's just telling it how it is. I loved it. Mm-hmm. Feels like he won over Pistons Twitter within like 5 minutes today.
Yeah,
I was all about it.
Yeah, great dude. I mean, like you said, the guy just no F's given, but more than that, he's just a team player. Like the biggest things he spoke on were, I don't care if I play 15 minutes a night, 20 minutes a night, or I don't play at all. He goes, I just want to do what's best for the team. I want to make sure that these guys, and he even said back in Brooklyn early in his days when they had DeMarre Carroll, Jared Dudley, it was a team that wasn't good and that you saw progression. He said this team, he sees a similar mold in terms of taking the next step, but he's like, this team has way more talent. Like this team has tons of talent. And the fact that he even openly said like, hey, I'll do whatever's asked of me. Joe Harris is a guy I think Pistons fans are going to love. And he fixes an immediate issue, which is shooting. So you got to love that.
Yeah. And he was like, listen, I'm here for a year. I don't know how long I'll be here, but as long as I'm here, I'm going to give it my all.
Yeah.
Which is like exactly what you want from a guy that you're trading for, especially
and know it's his role. I mean, that's something that is hard for grown men, especially in the NBA when you got to deal with egos and all that. But to truly know your role and to embrace that role, that's exciting for Pistons fans to hear, because we, the fans who are observing, we know the role of Joe Harris. But then for Joe Harris to confirm that role and say he's all in that role, it's just exciting.
He's already having an impact off the court too. Like Ausar Thompson, he was like, "Oh yeah, that's my guy." We're we have lockers right next to each other. he tells me about all this stuff about, like playing alongside greats, like whether it's like LeBron, whether it's Kyrie, like, he's had, these experiences. So, just to have that type of, guy that, Ausar Thompson can lean on, because let's be honest, we all think that, I think we're all in agreement that Ausar Thompson could potentially be an all-star, perhaps of that ilk one day. And, to have a guy like that to lean onto in your rookie year is just super invaluable, especially a guy, who, especially with, a guy who will be missing time, which we'll talk about a little bit later. He's going to have to, play a little bit more than I think the Pistons anticipated. So, that, oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, what's funny about Joe too, is when they asked him, like, who's a better shooter, you or Bogey? And he's like, Alec Burks, man. Like, don't sleep on him. He's like, we have the shooting competitions, and AB will get him too a couple times. I'm like, yeah, the Pistons have shooting. Like Monte Morris, I didn't even include him in the conversation. It was just interesting to see him drop that, like giving some love to Alec Burks.
Yeah, 100. And you know what? That totally tracks too, because I feel like there was like a solid 3 months last season where I didn't see him miss a shot. Did you?
No, yeah.
Troy, have you seen him miss a shot in 2023? I haven't.
I guess not.
No, he's still making.
Yeah, Basketball Reference might tell you otherwise, but don't believe a word it says. You cannot show me the footage. It doesn't exist. But anyway, you know what does exist? From Half Court. In fact, it comes to you each and every week during the NBA season where we talk all things Detroit basketball, NBA basketball, any basketball that's being played. It could be on concrete. It could be on a landfill, man. We're going to be there. If you like that, be sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that mother notification bell so you're not missing any of the latest and greatest content. But also, be sure you're following my guys on X at Jeff Iafrady and my boy Troy on X at Troy Sergey 44. And you can even follow me on X at Sean F. Court. But guys, I have to do that every week, right? I mean, if something's called X, I have to make fun of it. Anyway.
I would be pissed if you didn't, Sean.
It's fun watching.
This is why you're on the pod, Jeff. This is why this works.
It's fun watching how some people like defend it. Like, dude, it's X now.
Oh,
don't call it Twitter.
For real though, my heart's full when I'm with the boys, like on a Monday. Like my week doesn't feel complete if I don't do this. So for real, it's good to see you both. But gentlemen, before we dive too deep into media day, before we dive too deep into the Pistons, because I mean, let's be honest, that's probably going to be the entirety of this podcast. We have to talk about what's gone on over the last week, in particular, the biggest trades that happened in the league. I mean, freaking Damian Lillard and Drew Holiday both finding new homes. DeAndre Ayton is no longer in Phoenix, and that's a footnote of this trade. That tells you that it's blockbuster. But gentlemen, what in your opinion, when we look, down the road later this season, what do you think is going to be the more significant addition? Do you think it's going to be Damian Lillard to the Bucks, or do you think it's going to be Drew Holiday to the Celtics? Because when that Dame trade was announced to Milwaukee, not to dismiss, Denver or any other teams in the league, but it in my head, it felt very inconceivable to think that there was a team that was going to be able to match up with them. And then the Drew Holiday trade happened. And now my entire outlook on Boston might have done a complete 180. Going from I have almost no faith in this team down the stretch to, oh my God, they went and replaced Marcus Smart with a better version of Marcus Smart. Like, with all due respect to Marcus Smart, a guy who's won Defensive Player of the Year, he's never been better than Drew Holiday.
Mm-hmm.
But guys, I mean, either way, I mean, both of these teams just absolutely upgraded. But my question is, which one do you think was the bigger upgrade?
Yeah, Sean, Damian Lillard, the all-star Hall of Fame talent that he has. You put that with Giannis. And not just that. You don't really have to, in my opinion, at least maybe I'm naive with this, but maybe you don't have to deal with egos with these two together, because these are two guys together who are ready to win now. They're ready to put 5, 6, 7 points that they would have without the other aside and score less, grab a few more rebounds less, dish out a few more assists less to win and to play competitive basketball in May and hopefully June. To me, Damian Lillard has so much talent that we've seen over the years. And to be totally honest, not in a lot of situations besides Western Conference Finals, where I think they got swept by Golden State back in 2019. Besides that, never been really played into high pressure, serious basketball moments. Besides that, but you put him now in a situation where it's win now with another Hall of Famer talent, a guy who's got it done before in Milwaukee, Giannis, who's hungry to win, bring another chip to the Cheesehead State.
He gets to play with one of, if not the best player in the world.
That simple. To me, yes, Drew Holiday in Boston, massive upgrade, but you cannot beat Damian Lillard and Giannis right now.
Well, at least for me, and to Troy's point there about Milwaukee, I'm more scared of Milwaukee. Like, I'm more scared of Milwaukee, but I think the better team as of right now, like with strengths and weaknesses, I like the Celtics because you have, like you said, Sean, you basically replace Marcus Smart with Drew Holiday, who's better offensively. You know what kind of defenders that Tatum and Brown can be. Derek White's a great defender. Porzingis they just added, great shot blocker. I know there's questions about him staying healthy, but regardless, Al Horford, we know what he brings. I like what the Celtics did. They upgraded. They both upgraded. More significant, though, it would have to be the Bucks. If we're talking, it's hard enough to get one superstar in Milwaukee. You got two, so that's got to mean something. But I like what the Celtics did just as a team. Like, the only thing that worries me about the Bucks is defensively. Like, those guys come to postseason. Giannis, already an elite defender. Brook Lopez, we know what he did last year. Chris Middleton, after a couple knee injuries, like he's not the same, at least defensively. There's my concern, Sean. I think the more significant upgrade, if you talk about what it means to add a superstar to Milwaukee, I'll go with the Bucks. But as a team, I like what the Celtics did, and I like what they currently have. I do.
Yeah, I think they both, like even though these, like in my opinion, both of these moves for each of these teams are absolute slam dunks. They both took calculated risks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, on one hand, if you're Milwaukee, just like Phoenix, you are all in. All of your chips are in the table. Did you know that they do not have any rights to like any of their first round picks, like coming up over like the next 6 or 7 years? That's just gone. So, say goodbye to any of those. On top of that, salary wise, guys, spoiler alert, this is going to be a second apron team. So, you talk about all the things that come with the salary cap on that, but ultimately, if that keeps Giannis in Milwaukee long term, if that makes him happy and ultimately, proves to bring at least another championship to Milwaukee, I think it's a massive success. And I think they're going to have, all the ability to do that because Giannis and Damian Lillard, we've already seen some lethal pick and roll combinations. We might already see like the best pick and roll combination perhaps ever in the game in Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. This could perhaps be better. Like that's how dangerous that pick and roll is.
I was going to say that earlier because I'm glad you brought up Jamal and Jokic. I think this could challenge that. Like imagine
100%.
a high pick and roll with Damian Lillard who can shoot from essentially past half. You got to guard him. Yep. And then you have Giannis, one of the most dominating interior presence in the game. Arguably, people would make the argument that Shaq. That's who you're dealing with in a high pick and roll. That brings defenses. They're terrified.
I mean, pick your poison, Jeff. Are you gonna fade on Dame and give him the room to shoot from beyond the arc when he's as lethal as Steph at points from beyond the arc? Or are you going to push up on Dame and give Giannis, who, like you said, is the most dominant mother seen down low since Shaquille Mother O'Neal? You can't win.
No.
Like 9 out of 10 teams in the league can't do anything about it. Boston's 1 out of the 10. And the reason why they might have made the more significant addition, in my opinion, and again, it's going to come down to, how these teams stay healthy, what they look like. As of right now, it is a total toss-up, in my opinion, as far as which team is better. But what could make the difference, as Jeff brought up, that defensive ability or lack thereof that we're going to see in the front court now, or in the back court, in Milwaukee. because Drew Holiday, for all intents and purposes, he covered a lot of weaknesses for that team on the defensive end and also had the back line of Giannis, Brook Lopez, and, when healthy and, more in his prime, Chris Middleton. But now we are going to see more of Dame getting exposed or more so, picked on defensively in the playoffs. And the question is, obviously Milwaukee has, generational talent, but do they have enough to be able to cover that on the back line? That's going to be interesting to see. But also, Boston, like even though, like Portland got Dame, into a championship situation, within 48 hours, they perhaps traded the one like Achilles heel or counter to Dame that would be out there in the league. I mean, because you talk about like what is going to be extremely invaluable, for Boston is having Drew Holiday in a playoff series.
Yep.
To guard their best ball handlers. To be able to and on top of that, guys, Drew Holiday's assist to turnover ratio 3-1. The dude doesn't turn the ball over. And so you talk about having the steady hand. Like, how many games have we seen Boston lose over the last 4 to 5 years by a couple of baskets, by a couple of mistakes at the end of the game, whether it be turnovers by Jaylen Brown or even mistakes by Marcus Smart at the end of the game?
Playoff games.
Yeah, exactly. So for all intents and purposes, you take Boston, who was already a favorite. And again, yes, they made risks. They got rid of guys who, are culture setters, who are, heart and soul of that locker room. But after these moves, even with losing Robert Williams, even with losing Grant Williams, even with losing, Malcolm Brogdon and all these guys, how can you look at Boston from top to down and not say that they're better than last year? Whereas this Milwaukee, until we see what that team looks like defensively, you could make the argument that they got incrementally better and not as improved as Boston. But again, we're just gonna have to see how that plays in execution, because if Chris Middleton can come back and play, better basketball on the defensive end this year and look a little bit more like the Chris Middleton of old, then that covers a lot of those holes, right? But again, Milwaukee did give up a lot of depth in this trade too. But there are other aspects of this too, mainly Portland. I mean, they did not send Damian Lillard to Miami. They did not grant his wishes on that front. But on the other hand, you look at the total trade package they got in return, guys, they were absolutely right to not give in to Dame's demands. And they still, in my opinion, got him in a better situation to win a title.
It was a win-win. 100%.
Yeah.
I think it's a shame, though, that going back to the Boston-Milwaukee debate, that one of these teams is not going to be in the finals. And you know what I mean? We're gonna have to break down why one of those teams is not in the finals, which will be interesting, because but we said the same thing last year to a degree, though. We said it'll be Boston or Milwaukee and everyone else, and we saw a Miami team come in and beat both teams. But I just feel like both teams are so much deeper than even last year's team that there's a lot that we're gonna have to see. So,
do you think if Milwaukee doesn't make the finals, there's a chance that Giannis leaves?
A chance. Yeah, a chance.
I don't think he does. I think him and Dame are going to fit, like a freaking glove. I think this might offensively be the most dominant duo we've seen since Shaq and Kobe. I think this could truly be dangerous. But on the other hand,
you see at least a Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals between the two.
Oh my God. I mean, yeah, if they're playing today, absolutely going to Game 7. Absolute toss-up. You know who I don't see getting there? The Miami Heat and the Philadelphia 76ers. If I look at any teams throughout the entire league today and say you are done diddly, it is without a doubt Philly, definitely. Because what's their way out?
Embiid rebuild again. Tank
exactly.
again.
Exactly. Yeah, they have to trade Embiid.
Way out right into a rebuild. That's essentially what's on the horizon. The Miami Heat, though, only team so far this offseason to take 2 L's in one day. They missed out on Damian Lillard, and then they missed out on Drew Holiday. And the Portland Trailblazers traded them to two contenders that are better than them in their own conference.
Jeff, they might have taken a third L that not a lot of people are even thinking about, because you know what reports were starting to come out a day or two before this Dame trade came out? There were some reports that Miami was keeping their eyes on Giannis Antetokounmpo and his future status with the Milwaukee Bucks. And then literally a day later, the Bucks say, "Nope, that's not happening."
That's an L hat trick.
Yeah. And I mean, apparently, guys, Miami and Portland just never even actually had any dialogue. But at the same time, I mean, you look at you understand at the very least, from Portland's side of, you want to go out and get the best deal humanly possible. But my question is Miami going to regret not being more aggressive in this situation? Are they going to rue the fact that they are going to walk away without either of these players? Because I mean, yes, they're going to tell you, heat culture, we have enough in house, we can get back. No one believed in us last year, but I mean, let's be realistic, y'all. This team did not look good in the regular season last year. They were a quarter away from not even making the playoffs when, in the playing tournament. Like, it's not like this team had a amazing run, leading up to the playoffs last year, right? Like who expects realistically that this team's going to get back? Like, yes, they've had repeated success. They are the Miami Heat. I don't want to question them, but at the same light, how can you look at these rosters from top to bottom unless some catastrophic injury happens and say, yeah, Miami will get to the conference finals?
Well, I thought it was a Cinderella run last year, and they lost two starters. They lost Max Strus and Gabe Vincent. So, and they replaced it with RJ Hampton. Shout out to RJ Hampton. He's supposed to be on the pod, but unfortunately had other obligations. So you know what, RJ Hampton?
Well, that's out there now. All right.
You know what? I'm throwing him under the bus. I don't give a damn. RJ Hampton.
Yeah.
So, moving over to Miami to be with Miami Heat. Congratulations. But regardless, Miami Heat are in a tough position because, Sean, I agree with you. With the Miami Heat, at least not being aggressive. But then the question I have is, what the hell do they have? I mean, what's you're asking? Are you going to be Bam Adebayo or Jimmy Butler? No. I mean, you're not going to give me Jimmy Butler. You want to keep him. So part of me asks, why weren't they aggressive? But then the other part of me is maybe they just didn't have enough. Right. Maybe they had nothing to give. Or maybe they were offering something. And if I'm Portland, I'm like, hell no. I'll go get, a better trade package from Milwaukee.
Right. And I mean, as despite what your opinion might be on Tyler Hero, who's kind of a divisive prospect as far as what his overall ceiling actually is, I don't think any of us could make an argument, no matter what you think of Tyler Hero, that him in a package is going to be better than DeAndre Ayton. It's going to be better than Robert Williams. It's going to be better than Drew Holiday, which was eventually flipped, into those assets, so there's just, I think overall, like you look at Portland in hindsight, they got an absolute haul. At first you kind of questioned what they were doing because, especially when the trade was first getting processed, I before the reports even came out, I was like, well, Drew has to be getting flipped as well. Right. Because he just doesn't make sense to put another guard alongside Anthony Simons and Scoot. But, ultimately now that some more chips have fallen, and here's the other thing, guys, they could trade even more. They could flip Robert Williams. They could flip Malcolm Brogdon. They could get even more pieces from this. So Portland, all of a sudden, they're going to be a really fun league pass team.
Yeah,
and this is exactly why they needed to rebuild, because now they're cooking with gasoline, man.
They're cooking. They got a hell of a chef, and they got I call him a chef's assistant with Chauncey Billups over there, and he's got guards to work with. Listen, Shaedon Sharp, you didn't mention either. He's another guy they got over there in Portland. Yes. I like what Portland's building. I do, and honestly, Malcolm Brogdon could be one of the more, interesting trade pieces around the deadline, because there's going to be a contender that would be like, hey, if Malcolm Brogdon's over there balling out in Portland, or at least, being serviceable, I think there'll be a team that'll want Malcolm Brogdon. I think so. So there you go. Like you said, Sean, Portland's not even done.
Trading Dame puts them ahead of a rebuild that was coming anyways, far more than other teams who have to start a rebuild. Maybe by default. But
Well, what about the other piece too? Jeremy Grant. What's going on with him?
Well, I don't know. I mean, as far as they're going to try to trade him. Detroit, show some control, show some restraint, please.
Yeah.
We all love JG, but we do not love the contract.
No,
and
no.
I know it might look a little better in a couple years, but I just no. But anyway, guys, let's talk about some guys that are on the Pistons, the Detroit Pistons. Specifically, Jeff, you actually got to go to media day today and was in the building. So my first question to you is someone that was, that was there, got to see the entire thing, from our end. There wasn't a stream until in the middle of it. And even then it was kind of, not fully publicized or fully tweeted out. What was the overall takeaway from media day as far as the overall vibe in the building, expectations for this season, players and who stood out in particular and for what reasons? What was Jeff thinking about when he was walking out of the Pistons Performance Center?
There's this and you already kind of knew this existed, but the competitive atmosphere, like they talk about the runs they have together. They talk about the scrimmages they have together. They talk about how much they compete against each other. And I think it was Monte Morris. It was either Monte Morris or Alec Burks who said this, but they had, they do 5-on-5s and a ton of guys that show up to the gym. And he talked about how the commitment that the players have to wanting to be better. And he described it as, you show up and you participate in these runs, and at different days, it was different teams winning. No team had the edge. And I think it was Joe Harris who brought that up because of the depth this team possesses. There's a lot of depth. Like they're talking about the guys are a part of the second unit or taking advantage and winning some games off guys that are part of the starting unit. So I think the competitive atmosphere was very interesting. I mean, especially with a young team. I think Troy kind of addressed the defensive questions about this team moving forward. And he even had a statement that I thought was a bar. And I think he said, we aren't the Pistons until we defend. And he said that, and the whole room kind of went quiet.
Yep.
I'm like, wow, that's a bar right there. And he talked more about that. I think Monty had some interesting quotes too, because he's super well-spoken. He's soft-spoken is the right word for it. Like everyone, when he's speaking, you could tell the players love him. Like even Jaden Ivey got choked up talking about Monty Williams for a second there. Like he kind of, like just describing him as, I'm just kind of like lost of words because I love that man. Like Monty seems like a great guy, but you could tell he's super intelligent. The way he kind of breaks down the game and talks about what he expects moving forward. No one talked about playoffs. No one talked about play-in, because whenever the question was asked, they're like, we just want to win. Like, and Troy said it best. I don't want to put a cap on this team. There's no like play-in tournament. It's just go out there, go ball. We'll see what happens. We'll see how the chips kind of fall. So, I mean, it was very, and this is the thing I noticed about the Lions too, and you could tell it's a culture when everybody's saying the same things. Like that's important. When you have an organization, when players go to media day or coaches are speaking to the media and everyone's saying different things, you're like, people are just not on the same page. This Pistons team seems to be from top to bottom, from Troy to Monty to the players. I got to see Cade, which, by the way, as advertised, he's jacked. And Isaiah Livers even talked about it too. Like, who played one-on-one with him, and you could tell, like, when he was posting me up, it was like, oh yeah, this guy, he goes, I think his quote was, everything I read about you on social media is true. Like talking about Cade being big. I'm like, dude, so that he looks great. He says I'm 100% healthy. He's ready to go. It was nice to hear Ivy speak. They all sound like they're grown-ass men, like 30-year-old men, the way they speak and the way they approach the press conference. I mean, Ausar, the way he talked, like this is the thing that could surprise me about Ausar, and maybe it's just because how he was raised, but the guy is just like, he's just locked in. Like he walks in, he answers.
He doesn't sound like he's 20 years old, dude.
No.
It trips me out.
No, answers every question like a professional. Talked about what's expected of him. I think the common question today, and they asked Monty this, Troy this, and they asked some of the players like Ausar's defensive ability, and everybody just says, oh yeah, like he's got all the physical tools. He's going to be ready day one. Troy didn't really say, the start, is he starting or not? He said, I'll let Monty kind of decide all that. But regardless, I think Ausar Thompson, and I know we speak a lot about him on this podcast about his defensive upside. I think day one, you're going to see it. Immediately, you're going to see Ausar Thompson make an impact. So it was nice. You got to see Killian Hayes met with the media as well. And I think Kool-Aid, shout out to him. I think he had a quote. he told me, he's like, this is the most confident I've ever seen. I know people are going to laugh at this, but it's the most confident I've ever seen Killian at a press conference. Like the way he walks in, he's talking to the media, shoulders up high. He doesn't look like the guy when he first got here. I don't know if that means anything. I'm not saying he's going to come out and break out or anything, but I thought that was an interesting takeaway. But again, the overall takeaway, Sean, and Troy, was just the competitiveness, the amount of these guys play together. I think Jalen Duren mentioned he went to Houston, played with Cade. They had some pickup runs out there. They obviously talked about the Rico Hines footage, which, you guys all saw. But it was awesome. The camaraderie this team has, the chemistry, like they just seem to gel well together. It's a good mix of vets like Alec Burks and Joe Harris. These guys, Monte Morris now, who's added, Flint native. By the way, I think James Edwards asked him to name his all-time 5 Flint starting lineup, and he went through that. So
that's awesome.
It's just a great blend of youth versus guys that have been in this league, and everybody's just on the same page. Like there's no bad apples. They're just great dudes, and you could tell that starts at top. That's all Troy Weaver. It truly is.
Yeah. I mean, they're not starting from ground zero, in training camp. It's very clear. And, they talked about how this team spent a lot of time together this summer and was intent on building chemistry. In particular, Cade and Jalen Duren spent a lot of time playing basketball together this summer too, which, was beyond the Team USA select stuff. They met and, played together this offseason too, which is just, like you talk about the prospects of them in the pick and roll as well. That's super exciting to hear. And, Troy, this was one of my favorite quotes from the day. This was from Monty Williams. He said, "Every time I walk into the gym, our guys are working like it's a contract here." You talk about the overall, competitiveness that's in this locker room that, guys are, able to finally, like they're going to be able to start establishing themselves in the rotation and in the future and starting to present how they can help this team win basketball games. But I think the ultimate vibe, from the day, if I had 2 takeaways, Troy, is the importance of this team getting back to it on the defensive end. And ultimately, these guys showing, the signs of development and those next steps towards, kind of what we've really talked about all summer is being the team that we know they can be, like playing meaningful basketball because they have the talent in-house.
Absolutely. And to your first point, of Monty Williams' quote there of everyone's playing like it's a contract year. I mean, these are just high quality guys who love the game of basketball and who want to win. And you put those 3 things together, and that's kind of what you see there is the guys looking like they're fighting for their lives. But really, in some ways, they are, right? They care that deeply about the organization, the team, themselves, improving, tapping into their full potential. And kind of going to the team's potential on that note, Sean, like you brought up. Yeah, we want to see development. We want to see, if we can, wins, right? And I think that is smart of not putting a cap on this team and not to even have expectations be a certain number or threshold or has to be this seed in the Eastern Conference. But you're at a time now in the rebuild where you have talent. That's obvious. You have talent in-house and you have a great coach. See what you can do. Go shock the league. Just do it, right?
Yeah.
And I think for all the Pistons fans listening right now, that's not news to them, right? There's nothing extraordinary of what I just said, but that is the truth of what this team's potential is. That's what the team's expectation, I think, for us fans are. Go play basketball, show improvements day in and day out, week in, week out, and let's go shock the league.
Yeah, for sure. I think also too, and I mean, Jeff, from what it sounds like as well, it sounds like Monty set the tone very early of, like on one hand, you talk about like the profound impact that he's had and just like how much, Cade talked about how great it's been, like to work with him as well. And it's just very clear that they just enjoy him as a human. Like it's very clear that he's coming in and doing exactly what, what they talked about at the beginning of the coaching search. And another thing that Troy Weaver said this season was about those 3 Ds: discipline, defense, and development. And so the fact that you're bringing in a guy, and again, this is this reminder, guys, we have Monty Mother Williams in the building. Like, again, I just can't think of a better catalyst of that. And so, yeah, it's just one of those days where, it's exciting to see everyone get back in the building. Just makes you want to run through a wall.
Yeah.
Get back onto the court.
Yeah, and again, you talk about Cade Cunningham, Ausar Thompson, all the players getting better, all your core foundational pieces. But the biggest factor of what this team does to me is Monty. Like he has the greatest impact because this is a guy that has the cachet. I mean, Monty spoke about it too, like going against him with the Phoenix Suns, and he always says like the most impressive thing about Monty Williams is his composure. You see, like on the sidelines, no matter if you're up a lot, it's a tied game, or you're down by a lot. Doesn't matter. Monte's always the same. And you talk about like the basketball IQ, because Monty's a super intelligent dude. I mean, he talked with Livers, and the first thing, or I shouldn't say the first thing, but one of the things he had Isaiah Livers do, and he's like, listen, I don't like guys to copy others, be yourself. That's something he preaches. But the one thing he did say was to Isaiah, I would go back and watch Mikal Bridges or Cam Johnson footage. He's like, watch film of those guys, man. Like, watch what they did in Phoenix, because that's the role I kind of envision you in. And Livers kind of took that upon himself. But this is a guy that has great relationships with his players. When he speaks, players listen. Great leadership. Super great dude, and a guy that you want to be the head of your organization. Like that. He spoke about his family and how they've been getting used to Detroit. Like a guy, people are going to love him. And I think players buy into him easily because he's such a good dude. Like he's a former player. He relates to players. He's coached really good players in this league. So I think all around, he's just the perfect, he's the perfect head coach for this team right now. He is. He checks all the boxes.
I feel like his post-game press conferences are going to be must-watch.
Yes.
Like you said, he's a very soft-spoken guy. He's a guy that doesn't necessarily come in the limelight and say necessarily a whole ton, but he is the type of guy where when he speaks, you listen. He commands attention, and he commands respect as well. And we've talked about it a lot, but you just can't say enough just how perfect of a fit he is. And the fact that you have him locked up long term, I mean, man, we take that.
Yeah,
and
you got Ivy
in abundance.
You got Ivy breaking down about how long he's going to be here. He's like, I'm just excited. He's going to be my head coach for a long time. I'm like, players love this guy. Like, and he's here for the next 8 years. I mean, come on.
Yeah, possibly 10.
Yeah,
we'll love it.
I love it.
Yeah. So, a couple other potential storylines or things that are, coming with media day, with training camp, things that are right around the corner. October 31st was the deadline for the Pistons to exercise the options on Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, and Cade Cunningham. However, they have already exercised those options. What a shocker. They're going to be, they're going to be on the team next year. Breaking news. I least shocking news of the day. But another deadline that's coming up, that's about 3 weeks away from when we're recording this podcast, the deadline to extend Killian Hayes and James Wiseman is going to be October 23rd. So my question is, do you think either of those guys get extended? If they do, which one's more likely to get extended? And do you think we could possibly see a trade before that deadline? I mean, Jeff, you said Killian looked really confident.
Yeah.
You sure? You sure he's confident he's going to be in a Detroit uniform?
No. And so I'll comment on both, and I'll just say this, and this isn't any shade at Killian, but the reality is, I think the writing's kind of already on the wall, in my opinion. I mean, you bring him on.
They asked Monty about his minutes in the rotation. They're like, we'll see. Like, wasn't that kind of the response?
Yeah, it's like, no, Monty, he's playing. That guy's playing. You want him to be your backup point guard. Killian Hayes is an interesting one because, and I'll answer the question like this: if there's one player of the two to get extended, I think it's Killian. I know that sounds crazy, but hear me out. Is because he's not going to cost much, and James Wiseman, I think, will be traded. I do like the way, and I don't want to overreact.
Was he even interviewed today, Jeff?
No, he didn't, and I don't want to overreact here because I don't want to again, my first time on media day, I'm already like talking with my pants up higher. And no, I'm not trying to act all like I know everything, but I thought it was interesting that James Wiseman didn't come to the media session, and they asked him about it. And they asked one of the PR guys, I think it was KG, actually, who's pretty respected. And he was like, it's not a big deal. Like he's not going to be here. But I talked to Kool-Aid about that. At least his perspective was like, I don't know.
You mean he's not going to be here at media day?
Yeah, well, he's not going to talk to media, but it's not just because of that. I'm
Right.
overreacting. Like, the more I think about it, a couple reasons. One, I don't see the fit. Unless he's just accepted being a backup big, which is fine. I don't think he wants to do that. The other part of it is I don't know if he fits like with what they want. Like for Wiseman, I feel like part of it is he still believes I'm a number 2 overall pick. I'm still that guy. I still can be that guy. And the Pistons are like, you know what? We kind of know what we want. We kind of know who's our foundational pieces. Wiseman might be kind of squeezed out of that. I like Wiseman. I just don't think he's extended. I could see Wiseman being traded, and Killian has no trade value. So, like, there's that too. I don't think either get extended, Sean, but if I had to pick one, it would be Killian because he's going to be dirt cheap, and I think James Wiseman is traded, to be honest with you.
Yeah, fair enough, Troy.
I don't think Wiseman's sticking around as a backup big. I just don't.
To simplify your question, Sean, I just don't see a world where both of them get extended.
Hold your mic up, boy.
To answer your question, Sean, I don't think either one will get extended because I guess why? I mean, you kind of already brought at least Wiseman in as an experiment to a degree. I guess I don't want to copy Jeff, but that sounds somewhat realistic of you extend Killian because of the price tag, but you trade Wiseman because there's a little bit of value there. But I think something that we can definitely agree on, at least I don't see a world where either of them get extended. I just don't think this is the timeline anymore where you extend either one of those contracts.
Right. Not that you take anything away from, because preseason basketball is not very important. I mean, not to shock anybody here, but preseason basketball is not exactly must-see TV. However, it is, it does give us, still some things to look at, some storylines to potentially ponder. I mean, on the other hand, we also saw Killian Hayes absolutely ball out last preseason. And then that guy just absolutely left the building for the rest of the season. And then, now I am interested to see, as far as, who gets playing time, what those minutes look like. I definitely think we'll see a decent amount of Ausar. I'd imagine Cade maybe plays 1 or 2 preseason games, but you'd think with him missing a lot of last season, they don't want to risk him in some not so consequential basketball. But ultimately, I'm interested to see, what kind of run Wiseman gets, what kind of run Killian gets. And, like you guys said, what is the ultimate play there? Because, I could see a world where both of these guys, aren't on the team in a couple of weeks. I could see a world where one of them gets extended. I could see a world where maybe both are super cheap extension options. But I think at the same time, I think ultimately what media day proved and what they talked about the competition is, this season's about development, but they're not going to be waiting around for guys to develop. Like they need guys to develop on the fly. They need guys to contribute now if they want to start moving in the right direction.
And this is like the first time in a couple of years where you can say a lot of guys deserve minutes. Like there's a lot of depth on this team. Like, and that's what makes it interesting with Monty is he talked about competition. I don't want people to think just because I was there and James Wiseman wasn't at media day that he's going to be traded. That's not what I'm saying, but I just thought it was interesting. I don't know. I don't know what Wiseman's future holds. I don't. And I don't think it's not like I have any inside sources. I didn't talk to Troy Weaver. I don't have the Sean Murphy bomb, but what I am saying is I wouldn't be shocked. Yeah. Shout out to Sean, by the way. He's been killing it. Breaking news, but I don't want to act like I know everything.
That guy.
If Sean's telling you it's different for me, it's just my opinion. But I think we agree there. Killian, it's just, maybe he played well last year during stretches. I just don't know. Also, with now bringing in Monty, and I like Marcus Sasser a lot. Maybe he just isn't here for the foreseeable future. Maybe that's the play. Maybe both of them don't stick around, but that's okay. You got a lot of talent.
Yeah. It's just as simple as this is the turning point in this franchise's rebuild. There are guys on this team. Again, I'm copying you guys. There's guys on this team who deserve minutes, and it's just the season of bringing in a James Wiseman, the season of trying to develop a Killian Hayes, is over. That's not
the reclamation projects are no longer the wave.
Yeah,
I feel bad for Pistons fans whenever a Killian Hayes like workout comes out and everyone just starts hating on him. And it's like, it's like I feel bad for Killian and I feel bad for Pistons fans because some of them buy into it every year and then they get disappointed. You kind of just got to accept that Killian Hayes is, as talented and, at least the physical tools he possesses, he might just never become what he was drafted to be. And that's okay. He might still have a career in the NBA. But I just don't know. I think for his sake and his mental sake, because he talked a lot about his mental health, at least last year, kind of after that Paris game, he started kind of struggling a little bit. And he talked about he just felt like it was just, it happens during the season. I don't know. I think Killian to fully reach his potential, I don't know if it'll be here, to be honest with you, Sean. I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong on that, and I'd love him to prove me wrong, but I think it'd be somewhere else for his sake.
For sure. Speaking of a guy who's trying to fulfill his potential, there was this guy named Cian Murphy. He reported, I don't know who this guy is. Last Friday, he reported that Isaiah Livers was dealing with some injury stuff.
Do you know his sources? What's his sources? I don't know.
Yeah, he had sources, but he's probably faking it. He just, some guy just trying to get impressions. But no, I reported last Friday that I'd heard some rumblings, didn't quite know fully what. But I had heard rumblings that Isaiah Livers was dealing with some injury stuff and that he could be missing up to 6 to 8 weeks. And that number turned out to be spot on, as the Pistons did announce today and released a statement that Isaiah Livers suffered a grade 3 ankle sprain in a training session. More specifically, the rumblings that I've heard after the fact are that he landed on James Wiseman in a training session and came down pretty bad. And, he was already dealing with ankle and foot issues at the end of last season for a significant part of the year. Ever since coming into the league, Isaiah Livers has just struggled to stay healthy. He's a guy that, when healthy, has proven that he can play in this league. It's just a matter of him staying on the court consistently, which is just been the issue. This, in my opinion, just being a really bad luck injury for a guy who's just really been lacking luck over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's just a basketball injury. I mean, you can't, it's nothing like people, you're injury prone. You should have prevented it. The guy was just hooping and he rolled his ankle. Like there's really nothing more there. I saw him today in I don't even want to call it a walking boot. It was like a walking boot, but like not as aggressive. It was like, and he said he feels fine. He walked out. He didn't have no crutches or anything like that. So I don't think this is something that Pistons fans should be fearful of. I mean,
like
I
a
think,
sleeve maybe.
Yeah. Like he'll be back. He'll be fine. He'll be playing well. I'm not too concerned, but it is unfortunate. Like this is a guy that just can't stay healthy. Like that's been the biggest thing for Isaiah. But again, when he's healthy, do I want Isaiah Livers on my team? Yes, I do. So it doesn't change much for me, but it is unfortunate. It's just something small. And it seems to be with Isaiah Livers.
So Sean, is it 6 to 8 weeks from now or 6 to 8 weeks from opening day?
So that's a good question. I would generally say, when they use the language of like up to 6 to 8 weeks, I generally take that as 6 to 8 weeks in the season. And so, it also could realistically be 6 to 8 weeks from now before he starts practicing again. So when we look at 6 to 8 weeks, I don't even know if that's the realistic timetable of when he's actually returning to the court. Right. So, when I look at this realistically, I think it would be a success if he gets on the court by Christmas.
Yeah, right.
Do I think this is the final blow for Isaiah Livers? No. But do I think this is going to make it a lot harder for him? Absolutely. Because, he did still have the summer be able to work on his game, to get in the gym, get healthy and all that stuff. But to miss out on training camp and the reps that come with that, and to, have to come into the season yet again, having to work, to get healthy and to work to get into basketball shape, and to not be able to actually work on his game. I mean, we saw when Blake Griffin, I mean, not to say that, he's on this caliber, but when Blake had the one summer where he wasn't injured and he was healthy, and for the first time in a long time, he could work on his game. That's when Blake Griffin had the best basketball season of his career.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like when guys normally come out and are able to actually like ball out like with Cade. The reason why I was so excited about his upcoming season this year is because he's coming in 100%, which by the way, he said today, he's 100%. And he's had, he was able to spend his summer working on his game, being in the gym. Whereas with Isaiah Livers, he's going to be coming in off of a rehab table, man. And that's just, that is just going to, harness really hamper the potential momentum that could be there. Now, Isaiah Livers is an insanely smart guy. He works his ass off. The team clearly believes in him for a reason. And quite honestly, he's still insanely cheap and team friendly. So I think there's still reason to not give up on that. But in the same light, it does just make it a little harder for him to, to maintain that spot. I really am rooting for him. It's not the type of news where I was happy to break, but ultimately just rooting for him, man. Just hope he gets better.
Mm-hmm. Perfect guy to pair with the kind of the core players you have now. Like 3-and-Ds are already valuable in this league, but for Isaiah on a second round contract, who can defend, who can shoot, and you brought up too having this injury, especially for a guy whose strong suit is shooting the basketball. Yeah, there are concerns. Maybe he takes some time there, of course. But again, like you said, Sean, like the other stuff that he brings, I think is super valuable. First, again, second round contract.
I love the comparison, by the way. Oh, sorry, real quick. I was just going to say, go ahead, Troy. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I know it doesn't always translate, but I know in college too, he was a guy that could hoop, play that 3-and-D. And so we can't forget that too. We know he's taking some tough blows in the league, but at the end of the day, we know the potential as far as the athleticism and what he can bring on the defensive and offensive end of that 3-and-D. So I just wanted to remind ourselves of the stud he was in college, and that studness doesn't always translate, but the studness was once there and can still get tapped into. So
I think there's been moments in the NBA even where he's looked like a first round talent. Like I think if you show footage of this guy in college as well as even in the league to guys, they're not saying, "Oh, that's a second round pick."
Right.
They're like, "Oh, that guy was like that's a steal in the 20s." And I love the Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges comparison because not just obviously because of the wing, 3-and-D presence that both those guys have and the overall skill that they have in that sense. But I mean, if you listen to the Cam Johnson interview with JJ Redick on their pod, they're both Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson are just both basketball savants and geniuses. And Isaiah Livers is another one of those guys who's super high character, but on the other hand, just a smart dude. And so you talk that's a guy that I'm, even though his stock price may have gone down a little bit with this injury, I'm still keeping my stock.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah. He talked about adding new things to his game, shooting off the dribble, which I thought was interesting, like expanding his game. I think there's still a lot left for Isaiah Livers. I mean, this is a guy who, like Troy kind of pointed out, he was a stud in college, but he also played 4 years and played a ton of minutes.
Yeah.
Like, the coaches trusted him. He made an impact. He played for teams that made March Madness runs. Like, he's played a lot of basketball. Coaches love him. He brings the right mentality. He's always positive. He can shoot the ball, and he's versatile. Like, there's not too many things not to like about Isaiah Livers. And if you have two franchise guards, he seems like a guy you'd want to pair with him. If that's just
what's the one last what's the the more kind of like lighthearted, less serious takeaway I have from Media Day? It's one I actually just got from Twitter. It's just how uncanny it is that Jaden Ivey's just starting to look more and more like a young Dwayne Wade. I mean, guys, it's uncanny.
Yeah, that's actually ridiculous.
I mean, come on. I mean, on the court, he already looked like him. But now off the court, now he's just essentially just going to be becoming a Dwayne Wade clone. I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, man, like his frame, that defensive upside, I don't think has even been tapped yet. Like, he could still be I think he could be an elite defender with what he brings physically. I know he had a lot on his shoulders offensively, but now you got Cade back. He talked about he's working on playing off ball this off season. So, he tried some out last year. He played point guard, but man, he's gonna be a hell of a two-way player. I really do believe that.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Just like D Wade.
Oh, for sure. Troy, before we wrap up, are any closing thoughts on Pistons? Any closing thoughts on, on the preseason, on training camp as a whole? Any storylines that maybe we haven't talked about in this pod that you're looking forward to watching?
Yeah, nothing too crazy. I guess just Jaden Ivey on the defensive end is going to be great. Looking forward to that to start the year. Bojan's role, we didn't really
Yeah.
touch on him at all, but seeing what he can produce. And I think just seeing how Cade can make the team better. I mean, these are all points we've brought up before in previous podcasts, but as we're getting closer, I just want to remind ourselves of what we've been talking about this whole time and some of those great things that we saw glimpses of last year, but then to get the whole gang together this year is going to be fun to see. And then, of course, the biggest one of them all for me is what impact can we immediately see with Monty Williams? What do we see with Monty Williams that's noticeable that we could never have seen with Dwayne Casey? So,
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely think right off the bat you're seeing a lot of the things from his culture and the tone that he's setting, and I'm excited to see how that translates as well. I mean, Jalen Duren is a guy that we didn't touch on a whole lot. I know there was a lot made about the comment of him potentially playing at the 4 this season, which I don't think is actually going to happen a whole lot. I think they were just talking about how versatile Jalen Duren is and how he can use them in a variety of different aspects. But ultimately, like again, like I think if anything we can take away from media day, it's that they really, this is just another team. We talked about Portland cooking with gasoline. Detroit is finally cooking with some gas themselves. And I really do think, as deep as this league is, I think there's a lot of reasons to believe that this team, can be playing meaningful basketball come March, come April.
100%.
Yeah, excited for it, man. One last thing we got to touch on from media day. You guys know we have to touch on this. I mean, we have to. I sent this to the group chat earlier today. Jimmy Butler, the man, the myth, the legend, coming to media day. Guys, he did it again. This son of a, he can't keep getting away with it. He can't keep getting away with it. This guy. I mean, Jeff, you're just speechless.
Yeah, I think the cameraman was speechless too, to be honest with you.
I love that comment. Look in the far right comment. Dennis Rodman
is somewhere smiling.
Yeah, honestly, I think that perfectly summarizes what's going on right here.
Yeah,
it's a page out of D. Rodman's book, but this isn't surprising out of Jimmy. This, didn't he come in with dreads last year? Dreads, yeah.
Oh yeah. So now, it for those that might be like, why is Jimmy Butler showing up like this? Well, because now that's his official league photo. For all intents and purposes, when you go back to school and they take your picture for the yearbook, it's like that. Except when they have to take that image and plaster it all over national television and on betting apps and on starting lineups on ESPN. So I'm super excited to see emo Jimmy Butler all throughout the season. That's just going to be.
Yeah, that's what turned him emo is that Miami Heat taking 3 L's in one day. Now he's just you know what? Screw life. Screw all this.
Oh, 1,000%.
Tampering.
Oh, he saw that. And he was just like, well, screw everything. I've become so numb. My favorite thing, and I don't want to get DMCA'd here, so I'm going to turn off the audio. Stephen A. Smith's reaction absolutely killed me. We don't have to show the actual audio, but this man was puzzled. He just looks back and goes, "Oh my Lord."
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So good.
Jimmy won media day.
1,000%. He's won it 2 years in a row.
Yeah, he's the defending champ of media day.
And more than likely he already had this planned before the Dame and Drew Holiday trades. But even if that was on spur of the moment, or even if it already was planned, how fitting. Just absolutely fitting. But gentlemen, guys, this is a good pod. And this is one of the best pods because this is the last pod that we have to make for 8 months that will not have any Detroit basketball played in between. We get to watch the Pistons play hoops. We get to see the NBA back in action. We do not have to talk about the ifs and the what's to come because, gentlemen, the moment has arrived.
No more Rico Hines footage.
No more Rico Hines.
Oh,
Don't get me wrong, as much as we like talking about it, as much as it gets us through the summer, the only Rico Hines I want to be talking about is the Rico Hines runs where they're talking about, man, we have to play those Pistons next year. Come on, man. God dang.
mm-hmm.
It's going to be fun, gentlemen. It's going to be fun. And I mean, it starts off hot. Monty has to face his former team, Phoenix Night 1. We're going to have a lot to be talking about in a week's time. It's going to be fun, gentlemen. And you at home are going to want to make sure that you're subscribed and tuned in as well, because this is going to be the place where we're going to be breaking it all down. Be sure you follow on all of us on social media as well. Like you follow my guy Jeff on X at Jeff Iafrady. Also catch him on the Morning Woodward Show, absolutely crushing it. Also doing the Lions pregame show on the weekends as well. Jeff, you're a freaking celebrity, man. Keep crushing it.
Dude, I'm trying. I appreciate you, baby.
Yeah, absolutely, man. My gosh, making Hollywood look like a ton of hobos compared to you, man. My gosh.
Yeah.
But also, be following my boy Troy on X at Troy Sergey 44. Troy, so excited to see you at opening night. Jeff, you as well. We're gonna have some fun, man. And if you're there, be sure and come up and say hi, man. We love taking pictures. We love saying hi to the people. It's gonna be a great time.
Go Pistons.
Go Pistons indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of From Half Court. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will catch you guys next time from Half Court. Be sure you're subscribed.